Well, thank you for coming. This is a fun occasion. I hope you have fun too. We're having fun. We will, if you saw out in the lobby, there were a couple of interviews that I did with Tom Lehrer over the years, and I had recordings of those interviews, which I dug up on cassette, and Violet, who's running sound for us back here, did a wonderful job of reviving them from the original cassette. And we're going to be playing some snippets from those interviews during the concert, as well as some introductions to songs that Tom did himself on his own live album. So they will be interspersed throughout the program. So we'll start off with a recording from Tom, and then we'll go right into the first number.
What happened in 1960 was the Unicorn record people decided that maybe we could get a single out of this. So they paid for Richard Heyman to arrange 4 songs for small orchestra. And I went down to RCA, to whatever the studio was, and recorded with orchestra for the first time.
In New York?
In New York. So we ended up with 4 songs. The most memorable, I will never forget, the music in front of them, no title, no lyrics, no nothing, and they play. So he went through it a few times. I went into the booth to record, and the engineer said, "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, take 1." And the piano player said, "What?" And literally fell off the bench. I've never seen anybody do that. Because they had no idea. It was just this pleasant little waltz, and they thought it was some commercial or something.
Spring is here, spring is here. Life is skittles and life is beer. I think the loveliest time of the year is the spring. I do, don't you? Of course you do. But there's one thing that makes spring complete for me, and makes every Sunday a treat for me. All the world seems in tune on a spring afternoon when we're poisoning pigeons in the park. Every Sunday you'll see my sweetheart and me as we poison the pigeons in the park. When they see us coming, the birdies all try and hide, but they still go for peanuts when coated with cyanide. The sun shining bright, everything seems all right when we're poisoning pigeons in the park. Yada, la da da. We've gained notoriety and caused much anxiety in the Audubon Society with our games. They call it impiety and lack of propriety and quite a variety of unpleasant names, but it's not against any religion to want to dispose of a pigeon. So if Sunday you're free, why don't you come with me and we'll poison the pigeons in the park? And maybe we'll do in a squirrel or two while we're poisoning pigeons in the park. We'll murder them all amid laughter and merriment, except for the few we take home to experiment. My pulse will be quickening with each drop of strychnine we feed to a pigeon. It just takes a spigeon to poison a pigeon in the park.
I would like to state at this time that I am not now and have never been a member of the Boy Scouts of America. Their motto is, as you know, be prepared, and that is the name of the song.
I learned this song when I was a Cub Scout, which meant I didn't understand about 3/4 of it. But I learned it anyway and sang it a lot. And then as the years went by, I began to get, oh yeah, that's what that means. Okay, here we go. Prepared. That's the Boy Scouts marching song. Be prepared. As through life and march along, be prepared to hold your liquor pretty well. Don't write naughty words on walls if you can't spell. Be prepared to hide that pack of cigarettes. Don't make book. If you cannot cover bets, keep those reefers hidden where you're sure that they will not be found. And be careful not to smoke them when the scoutmaster's around, or he only will insist that they be shared. Be prepared. Be prepared. That's the Boy Scout's solemn creed. Be prepared. And be clean in word and deeds. Don't solicit for your sister, that's not nice, unless you get a good percentage of her price. Be prepared. And be careful not to do your good deeds when there's no one watching you. If you're looking for adventure of a new and different kind, and you come across a Girl Scout who is similarly inclined, don't be nervous, don't be flustered, don't be scared. Be prepared.
The first 2 years of the Grammys, which was 59 and 60, they had two categories. They had comedy spoken and comedy musical. But I was even nominated once. I was beaten by Jonathan and Darlene Evans. One of the other nominees was Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I would have been terrible if I'd been beaten by Alvin and the Chipmunks.
You are no doubt familiar with songs about the old lamplighter and the old umbrella man and the old garbage collector and all these lovable old characters who go around spreading sweetness and light to their respective communities. But it's always seemed to me that there's one member of this happy band who does an equally splendid job, but who has never been properly recognized in song or story, and this is an attempt to remedy, at least in part, that deplorable situation.
When the shades of night are falling, comes a fellow everyone knows. It's the old dope peddler, spreading joy wherever he goes. Every evening you will find him all around our neighborhood. It's the old dope peddler, doing well by doing good. He gives the kids free samples because he knows full well that today's young and innocent faces will be tomorrow's clientele. Here's a cure for all your troubles. Here's a stop to all distress. It's the old dope peddler with his powdered happiness. This next one is one of my favorite songs. As a veteran draft dodger, I really related to this song very well. And in 2020, Tom Lehrer released all of his songs into the public domain. And there was then published a book called If Only He Could See Us, a copy of which is out in the lobby, which contains all of the material that Tom Lehrer ever wrote or published. But this one song, the music was never published to it, just the words. So I transcribed it off the record, which is how we are going to do it now. And I sent a message to Tom Lehrer, and I told him that I didn't have the music to this, and he said that, well, he didn't think it was interesting enough to enough people, and that's why he never wrote the music out or published it. But he sent me a lead sheet of the music with the words and the chords. It's wrong. So we're going to do it the way he does it on the record. But first, we're going to hear a little bit about how he was inspired to write this song.
It was inspired by, I remember, I was a summer camp counselor, and this counselor was getting into his reserve uniform to go to this weekly meeting. And one of the little kids said, are you going to wear your costume? And he said, it's not a costume, it's a uniform. But the kid really knew what it was.
heart of every man in our platoon must swell with pride, for the nation's youth, the cream of which is marching by his side, for the fascinating rules and regulations that we share, and the quaint and curious costumes that we're called upon to wear. Now Al joined up to do his part, defending you and me. He wants to fight and bleed and die and kill for liberty. With the hell of war, he's come to grips, policing up the filter tips. It makes a fella proud to be a soldier. When Pete was only in the 7th grade, he stabbed a cop. He's regular army material, and he was glad to swap his switchblade and his old zip gun for a bayonet and a new M1. It makes a fella proud to be a soldier. After Johnny got through basic training, he was a soldier through and through, you just can bet. Yet the facts were so well rooted that the next day he saluted a good humor man, an usher, and a nun. Our old mess sergeant's taste buds were shot off in the war, but his savory colorations add to our esprit de corps. Think of all the marvelous ways they're using plastics nowadays. It makes a fella proud to be a soldier. Our lieutenant is the up-and-coming type. Played with soldiers as a boy, you just can bet. It is written in the stars, he will get his captain's bars, but he hasn't got enough box tops yet. Our captain has a handicap, it's very sad to tell. He's from Georgia, and he doesn't speak the language very well. He used to be, so rumor has, the dean of men at Alcatraz. It makes a fella proud to be what as a kid I vowed to be. What luck to be allowed to be a soldier at ease.
I don't understand poetry. We studied it in high school, we studied it in college, but they never told us why it was good.
I generally like to include at least 1 or 2 love songs in the program, partly perhaps to convince people that even at the Harvard University Graduate School, that hotbed of celibacy that I used to call home, we did have our moments.
I hold your hand in mine, dear. I press it to my lips. I take a healthy bite from your dainty fingertips. My joy would be complete, dear, if you were only here. But still I keep your hand as a precious souvenir. The night you died, I cut it off. I really don't know why. For now, each time I kiss it, I get blood stains on my tie. I'm sorry now I killed you, for our love was something fine. Until they come to get me, I shall hold your hand in mine.
There was a line in my hometown which I leave out about the Parson. His name was probably Parson Brown. There was nothing I could think of that was suggestive. I could come out and say something, but it wouldn't be funny to me. Right. And I couldn't think of something that was just suggestive enough, so I just left it out. Nowadays, what could it possibly be that he can't say that?
I really have a yen to go back once again, back to the place where no one wears a frown, to see once more those super special, just plain folks in my hometown. No fellow could ignore the little girl next door. She sure looked sweet in her first evening gown. Now there's a charge for what she used to give for free in my hometown. I remember Dan, the druggist on the corner. He was never mean or ornery, he was swell. He killed his mother-in-law and ground her up real well, and sprinkled just a bit over each banana split. The guy that taught us math, who never took a bath, acquired a certain measure of renown. And after school, he sold the most amazing pictures in my hometown. That fellow was no fool who taught our Sunday school, and neither was our kindly Parson Brown. Now, there's a line here I better leave out just to be on the safe side. In my hometown, I remember Sam. He was the village idiot, and though it seems a pity it was so, he loved to burn down houses just to watch the glow. But nothing could be done because he was the mayor's son, the guy who took a knife and monogrammed his wife and dropped her in the pond and watched her drown. Oh yes, indeed, the people there are just plain folks in my hometown.
We're still listening to something that I did for Lark 30 years ago.
This one is not dated. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's coming back. I want to go back to Dixie. Take me back to dear old Dixie. It's the only little old place for little old me. Old times there are not forgotten, whopping slaves and selling cotton and waiting for the Robert E. Lee. It was never there on time. I'll go back to the Swanee where pellagra makes you scrawny and the honeysuckle clutters up the vine. I really am a-fixin' to go home and start a-mixin' down below that Mason-Dixon line. Oh, poll tax, how I love you, my dear old poll tax. Won't you come with me to Alabama, back to the arms of my dear old mammy? Her cooking's lousy and her hands are clammy, but what the hell, it's home. As for paradise, the Southland is my nominee. Just give me a ham hock and a grit of hominy. And I want to go back to Dixie. I want to be a Dixie pixie and eat corn pone till it's coming out of my ears. I want to talk with Southern gentlemen, put my white sheet on again. I ain't seen one good lynching in years. The land of the boll weevil, where the laws are medieval, is calling me to come and evermore roam. I'm gonna go back to the Southland, that y'all and shut my mouth land. Be it ever so decadent, is no place like home.
But the main thing that I'm pleased with when I listen to that is not that these songs are so the greatest songs ever written, but that I'm not embarrassed by any of it, because the thing that I'm really pleased with is that since I paid for the initial recording and I could have recorded anything I wanted, I had a whole lot of songs that people said, "Oh, why didn't you record that?" I could have done anything, and then years later I would be embarrassed by it.
A few years ago, I was in Cape Cod, and I walked in on an Irish session, which is a jam session where people were playing bodhráns and fiddles and whistles and bouzoukis and other traditional Irish instruments. And in the middle of it, the woman who was leading it got up and said, "Would anybody like to sing a song?" And I couldn't resist. but there was no guitar or piano in the place, which are my usual instruments, but I saw on the mantelpiece there was a dusty old ukulele. So I picked up the ukulele, which I hadn't played since I was about 8 years old, and I played this song, introducing it as a traditional Irish ballad written by a Jewish mathematics teacher. About a maid I'll sing a song, rickety-tickety-tin. About a maid I'll sing a song who didn't have her family long. Not only did she do them wrong, but she did every one of them in. She did every one of them in. One morning in a fit of pique, rickety-tickety-tin. One morning in a fit of pique, she drowned her father in the creek. The water tasted bad for a week, and we had to make do with gin. We had to make do with gin. Her mother, she could never stand rickety-tickety-tin. Her mother, she could never stand, and so a cyanide soup she planned. The mother died with the spoon in her hand, and her face in a hideous grin, her face in a hideous grin. She set her sister's hair on fire, rickety-tickety-tin. She set her sister's hair on fire, and as the flames rose higher and higher, she danced around the funeral pyre, playing a violin, playing a violin. She weighted her brother down with stones, rickety-tickety-tin. She weighted her brother down with stones and sent him off to Davy Jones. All they ever found was some bones and occasional pieces of skin, occasional pieces of skin. One day when she had nothing to do, rickety-tickety-tin. One day when she had nothing to do, she cut her baby brother in two, served him up as an Irish stew, and invited the neighbors in, invited the neighbors in. And when at last the police came by, rickety-tickety-tin, and when at last the police came by, her little prank she did not deny. To do so she would have had to lie, and lying she knew was a sin, and lying she knew was a sin. My tragic tale I won't prolong, rickety-tickety-tin. My tragic tale I won't prolong, and if you do not enjoy my song, you've yourselves to blame if it's too long. You should never have let me begin, should never have let me begin. So much for traditional Irish music. So, Mr. Lehrer taught mathematics, and he taught musical theater, and he was also very into science, as we will find out a little bit later. But he also was very well versed in the classics, and this song shows that interest in the classics.
A few years ago, a motion picture version appeared of Sophocles' immortal tragedy, Oedipus Rex. This picture played only in the so-called art theaters, and it was not a financial success. And I maintain that the reason it was not a financial success was that it did not have a title tune which the people could hum, and which would make them actually eager to attend this particular flick. So I've attempted to supply this, and here then is the prospective title song from Oedipus Rex.
From the Bible to the popular song, there's one thing that we find right along. Of all ideals they held as good, the most sublime is motherhood. There was a man, though, who it seems once carried this ideal to extremes. He loved his mother and she loved him, and yet his story is rather grim. There once lived a man named Oedipus Rex. You may have heard about his odd complex. His name appears in Freud's index 'cause he loved his mother. His rivals used to say quite a bit that as a monarch he was most unfit, but still in all they had to admit that he loved his mother. Yes, he loved his mother like no other. His daughter was his sister and his son was his brother. One thing on which you can depend is he sure knew who a boy's best friend is. When he found out what he had done, he tore his eyes out one by one. A tragic end for a loyal son who loved his mother. So be sweet and kind to mother now and then. Have a chat. Buy her candy or flowers or a brand new hat. But maybe you'd better let it go at that, or you may find yourself with an odd complex. You may end up like Oedipus. I'd rather marry a duck-billed platypus than end up like old Oedipus Rex.
So I looked in the yellow pages of the Boston phone book, and there were 2 recording studios. I looked a few weeks ago, I looked again, and there's 3 columns. So there were only 2. One was called Ace, and one was called Transradio. Neither of them exists anymore, so I can safely say that. Ace was rude to me. They treated me like, who are you? It's like when you go to a restaurant and you're not anybody, and they treat you like, well, they don't even, see you. Right. So they were not pleasant. And Transradio was very nice.
So that's how Tom ended up making his first record, which he did 400 copies of. And within about 7 years, after he'd been in the Army for a couple of years and word spread about his music around the country, he had sold 400,000 copies. And thus he has never really had to work for a living. I got nothing more to say. Sharks gotta swim, bats gotta fly. I gotta love one woman till I die. To Ed or Dick or Bob, she may be just a slob, but to me, well, she's my girl. In winter, the bedroom is one large ice cube, and she squeezes the toothpaste from the middle of the tube. Her hairs in the sink have driven me to drink, but she's my girl. She's my girl. She's my girl. And I love her. The girl that I lament for, the girl my money's spent for, the girl my back is bent for, the girl I owe the rent for, the girl I gave up Lent for, is the girl that heaven meant for me. So though for breakfast she makes coffee that tastes like shampoo, I come home for dinner and get peanut butter stew. Or if I'm in luck, it's broiled hockey puck. But oh well, what the hell? She's my girl, and I love her. Here's another song that's pretty dated, except that it's not. And I'll let Tom introduce it.
During National Brotherhood Week, various special events are arranged to drive home the message of brotherhood. This year, for example, on the first day of the week, Malcolm X was killed, which gives you an idea of how effective the whole thing is. I'm sure we all agree that we ought to love one another, and I know there are people in the world who do not love their fellow human beings, and I hate people like that.
Oh, the white folks hate the black folks, and the black folks hate the white folks. To hate all but the right folks is an old established rule, but during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, Elon Musk and Beyonce are dancing cheek to cheek. It's fun to eulogize the people you despise, as long as you don't let them in your school. Oh, the poor folks hate the rich folks, and the rich folks hate the poor folks. All of my folks hate your folks. It's American as apple pie. But during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, white New Yorkers love the Puerto Ricans 'cause it's very chic. You step up and shake the hand of someone you can't stand. You can tolerate them if you try. Oh, the Protestants hate the Catholics, and the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Hindus hate the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews. But during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, it's national, everyone smiled at one anotherhood week. Be nice to people who are inferior to you. It's only for a week, so have no fear. Be grateful that it doesn't last all year.
Another familiar type of love song is the passionate or fiery variety, usually in tango tempo, in which the singer exhorts his partner to haunt him and taunt him and, if at all possible, to consume him with a kiss of fire. This particular illustration of this genre is called the Masochism Tango.
I ache for the touch of your lips, dear, but much more for the touch of your whips, dear. You can raise welts like nobody else as we dance to the Masochism Tango. Let our love be a flame, not an ember. Say it's me that you want to dismember. Blacken my eyes, set fire to my tie as we dance to the Masochism Tango. At your command, my heart is here I stand. My heart is in my hand. Ugh. It's here that I must be. My heart entreats, just hear those savage beats. So go put on your cleats and come and trample me. Your heart is as hard as mahogany. That's why I'm in such exquisite agony. My soul is on fire, it's aflame with desire, which is why I perspire when we tango. You caught my nose in your left castanet, love. I can feel the pain yet, love, every time I hear drums. And I envy the rose that you hold in your teeth, love, with the thorns underneath, love, sticking into your gums. Your eyes cast a spell that bewitches. The last time I needed 20 stitches to sew up the gash that you made with your lash as we danced to the Masochism Tango. Bash in my brain and make me scream with pain, then kick me once again and say we'll never part. I know too well I'm underneath your spell, so darling, if you smell something burning, it's my heart. Excuse me. Take your cigarette from its holder and burn your initials in my shoulder. Fracture my spine and swear that you're mine as we dance to the Masochism Tango.
woman called me and said, I think the biggest problem in America today is materialism. I think you should write a song attacking materialism. And I couldn't resist. And I said, well, I would if you'd pay me enough money.
And now a couple of songs about the end of the world. When you attend a funeral, it's sad to think that sooner or later those you love will do the same for you. And you may have thought it tragic not to mention other adjectives, to think of all the weeping they will do. But don't you worry, no more ashes, no more sackcloth, and an armband made of black cloth will someday nevermore adorn a sleeve. For if the bomb that drops on you gets your friends and neighbors too, there'll be nobody left behind to grieve, and we will all go together when we go. What a comforting fact that is to know. Universal bereavement, an inspiring achievement. Yes, we all will go together when we go. We will all go together when we go. All suffused with an incandescent glow. No one will have the endurance to collect on their insurance. Lloyds of London will be loaded when they go. We will all fry together when we fry. We'll be French fried potatoes by and by. There will be no more misery when the earth is a rotisserie. Yes, we all will fry together when we fry. Down by the old maelstrom, there'll be a storm before the calm, and we will all bake together when we bake. There'll be nobody present at the wake, with complete participation in a grand incineration over 8 billion hunks of well-done steak. We will all char together when we char, and let there be no moaning at the bar. Just sing out a Te Deum when you see that icy beam, and the party will be come as you are. We will all burn together when we burn. There'll be no need to stand and wait your turn. When it's time for the fallout and St. Peter calls us all out, we'll just drop our agendas and adjourn. You will all go directly to your respective Valhallas. You must go directly, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Hands up if you get that joke. Very good. And we will all go together when we go. Every Hottentot and every Eskimo. When the air becomes Uranus, we will all go simultaneous. Yes, we all will go together when we all go together. Yes, we all will go together when we go.
I feel that if any songs are going to come out of World War III, we better start writing them now. This is the song that some of the boys sang as they went bravely off to World War III.
So long, Mom, I'm off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for me. But while you swelter down there in your shelter, you can see me on your TV. While we're attacking frontally, watch Brinkley and Huntley describing contrapuntally the cities we have lost. No need for you to miss a minute of the agonizing Holocaust. Yeah! Little Johnny Jones, he was a U.S. pilot. No shrinking violet was he. He was mighty proud when World War III was declared. He wasn't scared, no siree. And this is what he said on his way to Armageddon. So long, Mom, I'm off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for me. But though I may roam, I'll come back to my home, although it may be a pile of debris. Remember, Mommy, I'm off to get a commie, so send me a salami and try to smile somehow. I'll look for you when the war is over, an hour and a half from now.
And to end on a happy note, one can always count on Gilbert and Sullivan for a rousing finale full of words and music and signifying nothing.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, gold, practinium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thulium, and thallium. There's yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, bismuth, bromine, lithium, beryllium, and barium. There's holmium, and helium, and hafnium, and terbium, and phosphorus, and francium, and fluorine, and terbium, manganese, and mercury, molybdenum, and magnesium, dysprosium, and scandium, and cerium, and cesium, lead, praseodymium, and platinum, plutonium, palladium, promethium, potassium, polonium, and tantalum, technetium, titanium, tellurium, and cadmium, and calcium, and chromium, and curium. There's sulfur, californium, and fermium, berkelium, and also mendelevium, einsteinium, nobelium, argon, krypton, neon, radon, neon, dicum, rhodium, and chlorine, carbon, cobalt, copper, tungsten, and sodium. In 1959, these were the ones they knew at Harvard. But now there are a dozen more they've only just discovered. Thank you. All right. Okay, if you insist. This was a request. There was a positive groundswell of requests for this song when I announced this concert, and so this is for both of you. First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Do whatever steps you want if you have cleared them with the pontiff. Everybody says on Kyrie eleison, doing the Vatican Rag. Get in line in that processional, step into that small confessional. There the guy who's got religion'll tell you if your sin's original. If it is, try playing it safer. Drink the wine and chew the wafer. 2, 4, 6, 8. Time to transubstantiate. So get down upon your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Make a cross on your abdomen. When in Rome, do like a Roman. Ave Maria, gee, it's good to see you. Getting ecstatic and sort of dramatic and doing the Vatican Rag. I'm spending Hannukah in Santa Monica, wearing sandals, lighting candles by the sea. I spent Shavuos in East St. Louis, a charming spot, but clearly not the spot for me. Those eastern winters, I can't endure 'em. So every year I pack my gear and come out here till Purim, Rosh Hashanah, I spend in Arizona. And Yom Kippur, I spend in Mississippi. But in December, there's just one place for me. Amidst the California flora, I'll be lighting my menorah like a baby in his cradle. I'll be playing with my dreidel. Here's to Judas Maccabeus, boy, if he could only see us playing Hannukah in Santa Monica by the sea. That's all we got.